everybody. I think you're going to really like this one. Family caregiving and caring for someone with dementia can be really challenging. And another challenging thing is figuring out what specialist does what. And so today, my special guest is Mary Osborne, who is an occupational therapist of Your Dementia Therapist, who is here to tell us all about the really magnificent things that occupational therapists can do for your loved one and for you to support you in your role as a family caregiver. Hope you'll enjoy this one. Take care. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Experts Dig In with Doggies for Dementia. I am Carmen DeValis, and I am the founder of Doggies for Dementia Foundation. And we are a nonprofit organization, really with the mission to support families impacted by Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia. And we help raise awareness by sharing the stories through images and actual stories of people on that journey of Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. We truly believe the world could be a much more kind and compassionate place if people just understood a little bit more about it. And let's reduce the stigma. Let's share those stories and just raise the awareness of the world, really. So that's no small goal, right? Raise awareness for the world. But, photographs really say a lot, as do videos and the stories, and that's what we're all about. Our Experts Dig In, which is what you're here for today, our Experts Dig In with Doggies for Dementia, is all about bringing some of those wonderful resources that are all around us that you may not know about, and to help you get some support. Family caregiving is or caring for someone you love. It's such a tough thing. And most of us don't go to school to learn that. We're not prepared. And yet here we are, right? So today I have special guest Mary Osborne. Welcome, Mary. If I had an applause button, I would do that for you.
Thank you. Sorry, my screen froze on me for a little bit while you were speaking. So I'm like, oh shoot, sorry.
Okay. I hope it didn't on the recording. Mary is an occupational therapist, and her business is Your Dementia Therapist. And I had to laugh because it's so easy to remember, and yet I had to write it down to remember. But that's just a factor of what's happening this week. Yeah, so she has 10 years of experience, and she works directly with families, either virtually or in person, families that are caring for a loved one with dementia. And, I just can't really wait to just jump in and hear what it's like. And my first question is going to always be like, what drove you to do this, Mary? Right? As occupational therapist, dementia care. So welcome.
Well, thank you. First off, thank you for having me here. I'm so excited to be on here with you. I'm a big fan of what you do. I just think it's so amazing and needed in this world, especially in dementia care. It's just huge. And I've seen the difference that pet therapy can make. So I am a big supporter of what you do. So I just want to say that. But yes. So what led me into occupational therapy and how I got to work in dementia care. So like I said, I've been doing this for 10 years now. And one of the first places that I actually worked in as an occupational therapist was in a skilled nursing facility in North Carolina. And I actually worked with this occupational therapist who taught me all about dementia care and really just the importance of quality of life and just implementing the type of therapy that would really make a difference in the lives of someone who is living with dementia. And I started to really see the importance of what we are doing as occupational therapists and the change that I could bring about when I focused on that person who's living with dementia's abilities. And it's just so incredible to see when you view the world through their lens and really focus on the things that they're able to do. So that being said, like after working with this therapist early in my career, it really just changed the way I approach my job as an OT over the past years. And, in school, you're taught like the basics, but it's like when you go out into the field, that's when you see everything and you see how different therapists are practicing. You just you see a whole new world. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I just became so passionate about helping these individuals because I could see the difference that we were making. And yeah, so over these past 10 years, I've like trained staff with staff members and family members on different approaches that I was using in different activities that I would recommend to the individual. I would, train the staff and train the family on this. And I could just really see a difference in how care was delivered and received. And it was just really cool. So, over the years, something that I had noticed because I was always working with my occupational therapy sessions directly with the individual. And if, of course, family and caregiver training was incorporated into that. But what I was finding was that, as an occupational therapist, I was only with that individual an hour a day for 5 days a week. And the other times of the day, so the other 23 hours are provided, the caregiver or staff member or family member is the one providing the care the other parts of the other times of the day. So I was thinking to myself, well, what can I do to really focus on family members' concerns? Because they're a huge part of this equation. And I oftentimes find that the focus is not on them to address what they're going through and how we can make the care better for the person living with dementia and also the caregiver. So I started brainstorming. I'm like, what can I do to just kind of really focus on the family member or caregiver? So that being said, I opened up a consulting company called Your Dementia Therapist, and my whole mission is to really help caregivers and family members and teach them the things that I have seen success with in my practice over the years and show them like how the difference that we can make when we focus on abilities and when we use these different approaches in care. And it's just so awesome to see. So it's something I'm so passionate about. And yeah, so that's what led me to ultimately creating this consulting company.
Yeah, I still love that. And I really love that you've highlighted the caregivers as well, because
Yeah.
it's kind of well known for caregivers, but I don't know about the general public because it's kind of my world. So I'm not really sure anymore like what people know about that who don't know about family caregiving. And they tend to be kind of invisible, that the focus
Yeah.
is on, and as it should be too, that there's a huge focus on the person with dementia, but then the caregiver is looked upon. It's as if there was no other life before caregiving. They become
Yeah,
caregivers and need to learn a lot, and the expectations are huge. And what a sense of empowerment then to be able to learn what they need to learn in specific to
yeah,
their situation. And
for sure.
yeah, so love that. And so I understand you see people in Texas right now. So you're concentrating in
Yes.
Texas, either in
Yes.
person or virtually. I guess you had to get creative with that during COVID. I mean, we're still
Yes.
all in COVID, honestly, but
Yeah.
yeah, during that.
Yeah, for sure. So most of my sessions are virtual. So I do home visits as well. And I have a package for that where I always start off regardless with a virtual consulting session just to figure out the client's concerns, what they're struggling with, what they want me to address from an occupational therapy standpoint. And then my package would consist, if I did the home visit, would consist of the virtual visit. And then the second week, I would do a home visit where I would go through all the areas of the home with the client. So the family member will talk about any areas of concern or anything that they're noticing with their loved one having difficulty performing or safety modifications to make around the home. And I include all of my suggestions in a write-up format that I send over after. And then I do 2 follow-up sessions just to kind of check in and see how things are going with the client, to see what approaches are working, what's not working. Because I mean, in the world of dementia care, there are going to be times when there are going to be a lot of times when things don't go your way and you'll have to try different approaches. So it's really about being flexible with these approaches as well, and not being too hard on yourself when things don't go the way you
Yeah.
intended.
Well, and certainly what works one day may not
Yeah.
work the next day, but then may work
Yes.
the day after that. I just
Yes,
had a question,
exactly.
Mary. Yeah,
Mhm.
I just thought of something, because people listening, when I'm talking about my world and your world, we know what
Yeah.
occupational therapists what that is, but there may be people who don't really know. Like if you were going to
Yeah.
sum up, like what's the difference? There, we know there's physical therapists, occupational therapists. Like what is what is the general roles then or
Yeah.
mission for occupational therapists?
Yes, for sure. So, as an occupational therapist, we address what we call instrumental activities of daily living. So, these are referred to as our IADLs, and these are those more complex tasks that we do as part of our daily routine. So, these can be things like the finances, the medication management, the cooking, the cleaning, community outings. And oftentimes, in the early stages of dementia, the caregiver or family member will report concerns related to the person who's living with dementia having difficulty performing these tasks.
Yeah.
And then we also address activities of daily living, which is referred to as ADLs. And these are the things that you do, the basic things you do as part of your daily routine. So, self-feeding, toileting, bathing, dressing. And as an occupational therapist in the world of dementia care, when I'm working with clients, we talk about any concerns they're seeing related to these areas and how we can address these concerns. Just different things that I've seen over the years that have worked. Yeah. And then when I'm treating the individual who's living with dementia, when it comes to IADLs and ADLs, of course, I'll do an evaluation and I'll see, what they're able to do.
Excuse me.
Yeah, okay.
Allergies.
Allergies are always so bad here.
Oh. My apologies.
No
Yeah.
worries.
Yeah.
And then so
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
so no, you're okay. So with the ADLs related to dementia care. So yeah, so if I still do some work at a facility, just PRN, where I go like maybe once or twice a month, because I do miss that direct treatment with individuals who are living with dementia, because with
Yeah.
my role right now, I don't get to do that. So
Uh,
so whenever I am in the treating occupational therapist role, I address things like the IADLs, the ADLs, just depending on what stage of dementia they're in. I do a
mhm.
thorough evaluation to see what that person is able to do. And I really focus on the abilities at that point and, what that person's interests are and hobbies are. And we kind of mesh all these things together and just
Mhm.
make the treatment fun and something that the person who's living with dementia can feel a sense of accomplishment and purpose with.
Right. Yeah, such an important role. And I don't think it's often really talked about the important role of the
No.
occupational therapist in, as you put, just your daily living skills,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
the basic, from the very basic to a little bit more complex. And so thank you for that. I was thinking how many people out there don't really know what an
Yes.
occupational therapist does. And so awesome. So I want to just kind of put this into a real life situation. So let's say
Mhm.
I'm a family member and I'm a new family caregiver. I don't feel like I know a lot.
Mhm.
Number one, is this something I can ask my doctor, my caregiver, my healthcare provider to say, hey, I don't know where to begin. And I
Yeah.
heard about an occupational therapist. What do you think? Or are they going to tell me about that?
Yeah. That's a great question. So, oftentimes I do feel like, the family member who's bringing their loved one into maybe like a doctor's appointment, they're noticing these areas of concern, and it's just they're feeling overwhelmed. If they do get a diagnosis of dementia, it's like, shoot, like what's next, where do I even start? And of course, like the doctor's going to provide them with the education that they need, but oftentimes it's like you leave that appointment and it's like, well, where do I go from here? Like what does care look like? And yeah, so in that type of situation, they can, if they're voicing concerns to the doctor, if they're noticing a specific area of concern that their loved one is having difficulty with, they can always ask the doctor, hey, I'm noticing my loved one is having difficulty with this, and I'm really concerned about this. And that's when the doctor would, offer, oh, well, hey, well, what do you think about physical or occupational therapy? And sometimes those concerns need to be brought up, or it could be a situation where, that they're telling the doctor certain characteristics about what they're experiencing, and then they write that order. So
Right.
it could be either way.
And do you need the healthcare provider to write the order for that? Or can they
For
call you direct?
So for if the caregiver or family member is wanting direct occupational therapy treatment, then that is something that they would have to get the physician to write an order for. But with something that I'm doing, like the consulting with the family member or caregiver, whoever's involved, that does not require a doctor's order for that.
Yeah. So what you're doing is that consulting is
Yeah.
almost like beyond the delivery of care. Then you're guiding them on the steps of the way about preparing and learning what they need to as a family caregiver. At least that's how I
Yes.
understand. Yeah.
Yes, for
Yeah,
sure.
and
Yeah.
yeah, it is hard working as healthcare providers are and things. They are limited by the amount of time that they have in their visits,
Exactly.
and there's only so much. And sometimes their healthcare provider may not think about
Oh,
that
for
piece of
sure.
it. They're addressing
Yeah.
tons of other
Uh,
things
so-
too.
yeah, I
It's
was gonna
good
say
to
there's so
know.
much.
Yeah, and it's good to know what to ask for. As a
Yeah.
former healthcare provider, I will tell you, if a family came in and said, "Hey, I know something, I heard about this or that," and be like, "Great
Yeah.
idea." It's right. They're
Yeah.
going, "Thank you for that," and I think that is a great idea. I have
Yeah.
no problem with that. Yeah,
Yes, for sure.
yeah. So, all right. So I'm a family member, and so I was like, hey, you know what? I need some guidance, and I
Mhm.
give you a call, or I reach out to you an email, or however. We're gonna have the ways to do that, by the way. So don't worry. It'll be in the comments how you can find Mary. Then what?
So then they would call me. I do offer like a 15-minute discovery call. We can kind of talk about, what their concerns are, and if it's something, and I would say 99% of the time it's something I can help them with. So
Yeah.
then we can book a consulting session. And sometimes what I'm finding is that clients just want basic information first. They're like, okay, like just give me the basics on what to expect, or what you've seen throughout the years. They just want a general understanding of what dementia is.
Is it
So yes,
Alzheimer's or dementia?
dementia. Yes,
Right?
yes, that's a
That's the
very
big
common
question.
question. Yes,
Yes.
that's a very common question
Yeah.
that I hear too.
And understandably, I mean,
Yes,
that's something we
it's
know, and aren't we learning every day too? Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yeah, so maybe I want to kind of check this out ahead of time. I know you've got social media,
Mhm.
website.
Yeah.
What's there for our listeners to look into?
Yeah, so I do have Facebook and all of the platforms that you can find me on. It's under Your Dementia Therapist. So just want to start with that. But I have Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and then my website. I have a bunch of articles just related to dementia care, and I'm sure there's something helpful that you can find on there.
Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful. Because I
Yeah.
think it means a lot to have a place to go for
Yeah.
reliable information. And we will have that in we'll have that in the comments or in the description as well. So great. And that's available to anybody, anywhere who can tune in there, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah. That's fantastic. And so how else are you answering the call to the education, starting with the basic levels and moving up for family caregivers, what they want to know?
Yeah, so it's super interesting because it really just depends on the specific client scenario. So sometimes within conversation, they'll be telling me something like, I'll give you an example, like, okay, um, like let's say I'm talking to a client for a while and I'm hearing all the things that I'm listening, I'm being a good listener, I'm listening to all the things that they're telling me. And something that comes up is, my loved one just won't call the kids anymore, and I've been telling this person to do that, but it's just they just won't do it. And just like a typical response for me, well, I'll just kind of share this, just this example so you can kind of get a better idea. Well, have you tried to call the kids with that person around? Have you tried to do it? Well, yeah. Okay, well, how did it go? Oh, it went really well. They really, really enjoyed it. oh, okay, I see what might be happening here. And then I can kind of get into, okay, with the prefrontal lobe, changes are happening in the individual with dementia, just depending on the type of dementia too. But most oftentimes, what you'll find is the difficulty with initiating that task.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not that that person doesn't want to do the task or, you know, isn't motivated to do that anymore. It's really just the dementia affecting the initiation part of that task and that person being able to start that. So, something in this situation, it was just me educating on these brain changes that are happening, really just allowed that person to have a sense of relief like, oh, okay, that makes sense. This is what is happening. Thank you so much for that clarification. So
Right.
that's just an example of, I feel like most of the times too, with this type of education, it'll come up within a specific concern that they're presenting, if that makes sense. And it's
Yes.
just, it's like
This is
this,
what
like,
they
oh,
see. Yeah, it's what
yeah,
they see, and it kind of, yeah, because there's just such a fine line between respect and
yes,
honoring who they are, and but
exactly.
they've always done this, and I don't want to just take over for them or
Yes.
to push my agenda when that's not really what they want to know. And how do you know that? And there's just so much trial and error,
Oh,
and
yes, for sure.
and again, what may be right one day may not be the next, but that doesn't mean it's going to be that way forever. So the next day might be
Yes.
okay, and that's all right too. It's just,
Yes.
yeah.
And
And I
I
think,
just want caregivers to know that that's okay. You're going to go through moments where you feel like, oh my gosh, like I should have approached this a different way, or, I could have done more. And these
yeah,
are all just normal, natural feelings that we go through. And that doesn't make you a bad person. That just makes you human. Like,
yeah,
we're just going to go through situations like this. And
yeah.
it's common in dementia care, especially.
Yeah, and there's just such a heavy, I'll just say burden type feeling for caregivers, and so much guilt, and
Yes.
shame. I didn't do enough,
Mhm.
or I'm not
Yeah.
enough, and
Yeah.
I needed to be better at this. Everyone else is better. And I will tell you just really quickly, when I was in practice as a nurse practitioner, and I kind of transitioned out, and I was writing a book and talking to families, 13 families I followed for a couple years, and some were my patients I saw in the clinic before, and they told me
Mhm.
things they never said. And I was
Yeah.
fortunate where I was, that if I needed 30 minutes, 45 minutes, I could take the time to talk with families, because I thought, well, why didn't they tell me that? Because I knew so
Yeah.
much about their lives, but they
Yes.
didn't tell me how they were feeling as caregivers. And I
Yeah.
started asking, and they're like, oh my gosh, I thought if I told you that, you might say, I
Oh.
might not be able to take care of my dad anymore, and he'd have to go in a
Oh.
nursing home. Or I'm the
Yeah.
only one, Carmen, I was the only one of all
Mm.
your patients having troubles with that. And I didn't want
Yeah.
you to see me as a failure. Or,
Oh,
these, and
I
it was all
know.
wrapped. And because of course, they just didn't know
No. Yeah.
home, and that's just part of that's just part of it.
Uh,
And if
Yes.
they went in
They're
feeling
not alone.
they're not
Oh,
alone.
no,
And
you're not alone out there.
who goes into such a monumental experience as
Yeah.
caring for someone that you love, and go in with full confidence that, hey, I got this? Because
Yeah.
even professional caregivers like nurses and physicians
Yeah.
and nurse practitioners,
Yeah.
we don't go in with that confidence. We're like,
Yeah.
holy smokes, like, I
Yes.
hope I got this. And it's a heavy burden to place. And I think just saying, hey, I'm going to talk to someone who's got my back on this, who can give me some guidance, is
Yes.
huge. And to say, and
For
there is
sure.
absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, that is the right
Yeah.
thing to do.
Oh, absolutely, 100%
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. It's just so prevalent. And
Yeah.
gosh, if we can get that message across, that's like,
I know, because
yeah.
I want family members and caregivers to see that they're going through a lot. They're dealing with brain changes that their loved one is experiencing, and then also learning how to not only take care of their loved one in this new sort of way, but also take care of themselves in the process. So it's really, really tough. And I
Yeah.
really just want to empower people and show them just things that we can do to help with these types of situations, and just to also know that they're not alone in the process,
Yeah, you're not
like
alone. And there was a
and
time when the support was super limited, and I know that.
yeah.
I'm older, I know that. You have 10 years plus, right? You know that too. A lot
Yeah.
has changed in 10 years, right, Mary? I mean, a
Yeah.
lot has changed. And so yeah, I'm delighted to share this
Yeah.
out. We're gonna have contact information. You have so much more to teach, and I'm excited about that, and we're happy to share that too. And I don't, is there anything you'd like to add? What do you think people need to know, Mary? Is there anything else?
Yes. So sorry. I think my computer kind of froze earlier
Oh,
again whenever I was talking about the occupational therapy referral. So I don't know where I left with that. But
okay.
yeah, I just think it's important for everyone to know too, like if you are noticing a decline in your loved one, or with their walking, or just their ability to do the daily tasks, then always talk to the doctor to see if, like, first talk to them about your concerns and see if it would be appropriate for them to maybe write a referral for occupational or physical therapy or speech therapy to address that specific concern, because we're always here to help out. And dementia is progressive, meaning that the individual will experience a decline throughout the stages. So it's really important to have somebody come out there and just maybe show you some different approaches or techniques that they're using, or just to further assess the abilities of that person, so you can
Right.
get a better idea of, like, the care to provide at that level. So
Yeah.
I think that's super important. I just wanted to add that.
I appreciate that. And that might even be in the form of home health care, right? Home
Yeah,
health
for
care.
sure.
There's a referral to
Yes.
home health care. So, and it might
Yep.
be a nurse comes out and gets the history and things, and then
Yes.
the additional therapies. And that can be a lifesaver, honestly,
Hmm.
and can really just, and it's usually temporary, it's short term. But
Yes.
you get that support that's needed, and to go from there. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I'm a big fan of what you do, because I
Thank
always
you.
see such an importance of incorporating pet
Yeah.
therapy into dementia care. I use those simulated pets in my treatment
Oh,
sessions.
you
So,
do? Oh,
yes.
well, I love it. There's some fantastic ones now that like
Hmm.
breathe and move. And so, I didn't say this before, but we typically photograph people with their dogs. And
Yes.
the reason why is that it just creates this kind of a, um, where we're kids again almost, and they
Yes.
forget that I'm there with a camera and we're just playing with the dog, and we get those really candid, beautiful
Oh, I love that
moments
so
to,
much.
yeah, and those moments to experience, and those moments to have captured on video and images. And so, and I saw your dog pop up there too. My dog is here, is dog lovers. And the other piece of that, because now social media and the blogs and the things that you were doing, also people will stop and look when there's a dog in the picture.
Yeah.
And I thought, if we want to educate people, we need to do it in a way that they're attracted to, where they're going to stop and look at a story. And when there's a dog, I mean, it was like
Yes.
viewership here. Suddenly there's a dog in the picture, and people are commenting like, well, okay, then we just make sure
Yes.
we have that. And it's just such a joy for me too. I'm like, wow, there's,
I love that. I just love that so much.
mhm.
So thank you
Yeah.
for what you do too.
Thank you, thank you. And I'm sure, and the dogs and how to work around pets and things is a part of what you do when you visit with families, and that's a
Hmm.
wonderful thing. Well, Mary, thank you so much. You have questions, people have questions, put them in the comments, send them out to us. We'll be sure and answer those. And
Thank you.
thank you. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.